Forgive me. I think we're going there now. Right. I think we've fixed that one. Yeah, no, very, very interesting. A couple of things came out, seem to be coming out of that for me, which was, number one, how long it seems to take. I think Nina mentioned 2 years, but there's quite a labour of love in there as well, and also the tier system. I think Nina mentioned it, and Michelle, you've mentioned it in the past as well. The tier system, where please you explain it, Michelle, if you would. You'll do it better.
Okay. What the tier system is many of the large corporations have lawyers that they are happy with, and they, obviously they're well entrenched with them. So how do you, as a women-owned business, and your size may not be the same size as the company that you're up against, how do you get in the door? How do you do it? What you do is through your certification. So to the point earlier of making sure that you're in their supply chain, what they do, the certification process is these associations put you in touch with the corporations, the Coca-Colas, the GMs, the Kellogg's, the Accenture, the Microsofts, and they put you in touch with the right buyers. That buyer then puts you in touch with the tier ones, in other words, someone that's dealing directly with them, and they encourage the tier ones to bring you in at the tier 2 level so that you're within their supply chain. So that makes them more compliant, and now you are in that company. So this is what they do, and they help put everyone all together. So it's a matchmaking is what it is. So you've got to do the work, though. You can't just sit there when you get your certification and hope it comes to you. That's where the work begins. You got to get in there. But it's amazing because you have opportunities that you would never normally have. And most corporations will use those names that I just said, will recognize tier 2 and sometimes tier 3 level certifications. But again, you've got to be certified. Certification, by the way, doesn't necessarily take 2 years, but you have to be in business for 2 years before you can even start to apply for the certification. Does that help?
Yeah, can I step in there as well, Richard, if possible? So, Michelle, to your point, the first question that they asked after we went through the certification was with regards to what we were going to do after. So you've been certified, congratulations. What next? And when we answered that question, I waited for 2 months before we put out a release to say that we were certified, purely while I thought through, how do we pay this forward? How do we take this amazing advantage that we've been given and actually share it with our supply chain and with the people that we work with? Which is the reason why when you saw the latest release that came out, a company release, was called You're Welcome, basically. And it's about paying it forward to our supply chain and ensuring that we are diverse when we choose our suppliers, and making sure that we allow there to be equity and equality at our table. Now, obviously, the most important thing is that we choose the right product for our travellers at any particular time. This isn't about just putting in a product that is diverse. This is about choosing diverse products that can actually stand up against every other product. So our supply director, Claire, is actually focusing on ensuring that every time she does an appointment with a large supplier, that she actually does try to fit in exactly the same equal time with some smaller suppliers so that everyone gets that chance to get to the table. Because for us at CAP, what we want to do is make sure that everyone feels welcome. And actually, Richard, to your point, it always feels quite uncomfortable when you talk about diversity in the wider meaning of the word, because what does diversity mean and what does inclusion mean? Well, we know that inclusion means making everyone feel welcome, not just diverse suppliers. And I think that's a major priority for us as females, that we've been given this opportunity, but actually keeping everyone at the table is really important. And actually being diverse is about celebrating the uniqueness of every human, actually the uniqueness of every supplier that we have. So from our perspective, even though we've been offered, and just as Michelle said, that amazing opportunity of getting to the table as either a primary first-tier supplier, which is what we are, or a second-tier supplier with our supply chain that we book into, we want to make sure that we are using as much diversity as we can, but always using that balance of making sure that we give everyone the opportunity to get to the table. That's the most important thing for us.
Exactly.
That's really,
yeah.
Nicely said. If I may jump in, I think that these positive policies that you kind of take from the certification and then apply to your business model are really in a great position to sort of shift that paradox which we're seeing in hospitality industry, as in, the dominant workers are female, over 70% of travel agents are female, over 70% of actually the consumers who make the decision purchases in travel are female, but then only 10% are CEOs and 15% of female are in leadership powers. So if we take that kind of certification and learnings from that association and really apply it to our business models, then we can really power the change throughout the system.
Exactly. There seems to be it requires quite a lot of kind of drive from the individuals, from individual companies and people to start this process, and it just another challenge of running a business. It seems. CHIPA, so CHPA in the States. Do I understand it correctly? Have a kind of forum that assists women-owned businesses? Don't know, Barb or Michelle.
Oh, did I freeze? Can you
yeah, you did.
You know what? Supplier diversity, although it's been around, is it all seems in North America. Many are saying, "Oh, wow, when did this come out?" It's kind of a new thing, and it's really not. So it's I wouldn't say there's a lot of. I would say in the last 12 months, there's been a lot more chatter about it, but there hasn't been as much as there should be. And I'm gonna go to the tier ones, and I'm gonna use them as an example. Some of the tier ones we use in corporate housing, not all of them realize the importance of supplier diversity. And although the people that we're selling to, those names I mentioned earlier, the big corporates, it's really important to them. So I think the message we need to get out to everyone in the corporate housing industry is either, if you can be certified, and if not, to Joe's point, include those who are certified within your supply chain so that you can include that upwards. And we all need to make sure that every single time you send through a piece of paper to your corporates, that you specifically say, we are certified, here's our number, we are diversified, so it gets included in their annual spend. There are some companies out here that have between a 10 and 30% quota, shall we say, per annum, and these are global companies, to make sure that they have supplier diversity in their chain, and the tier ones have to report that up to make sure that it gets up to the corporate level, to make sure that the numbers are all accurate. I'm going to go back to Barbara. You had mentioned the word automotive. In some of the automotive supply chains, there's actually tax advantages for GM, etc. If they use supplier diversity within their chain, it will actually help them as a tax break in certain cases. And depending on the industry, depending on the country, there's a lot more advantages. And we all just need to dig in and see what those advantages are.
Yeah. How do we find out? How would listeners where would they start? Where would anyone start? Anyone, please pitch in with this one. Where would I start?
Here in the States, I actually started at the Minority Supplier Development Council. That is where I actually got into some of those corporate meetings and sitting at those tables. It also helped me know some of the smaller businesses that I probably would have never connected with and did business with had I not been a part of that particular certification. So I think that when you go local, and I'm finding actually there's more connections that I'm doing more local than I am in a national or global level. Global, I think, and national, I got that. But it was the local level that I was really more interested in, just because I was a newbie to having my own business. Of course, being a minority and a female, I thought it was important to start from my ground roots of where my company starts and how to work my way out from there. So it was really kind of forming my own table, essentially, and how I kind of put those players that I wanted to see at that table and how we can conform to growing our community. And then, of course, other women-owned businesses. Because I like to tell people, especially when I speak, it's not really about the client that you're assisting, but how you're actually networking within your company. So I think that that is also extremely vital when it comes to the services that we do offer. So I have done it from a local level personally. And then I know the other global things will come, the RFPs and the other big companies like Michelle named. Those are people that you can get your foot through the door. And I think it's more of a personal connection rather than just business. So, I mean, we all know how to sell. So I'm kind of done with that. I want to form business partnerships and relationships that actually last long term. So it's just icing on the cake to get contracts.
Can I come in there, Nina? Because I agree with you 100%. And I do think it's quite interesting because it's the opposite here in EMEA, I'm guessing, Carolina, and definitely in the UK. So whereas for you, you've started local and you're going to drive out to global, when we are talking to buyers within the EMEA region, we start probably more with a global mindset and then work back into our local markets because it is not as well discussed in EMEA, diversity. It hasn't really, it's become a huge agenda point, especially over the last year or so. But until then, it's been kind of like sitting in the background underneath. It's not become the top of the agenda. So it's quite interesting from our perspective in EMEA. So you've got a US perspective, which is start local, go global. And in EMEA, we've got to go global, now work down into your own individual market. So it is an absolute opposite environment we're in. And I do think it's about creating balance in society. Not necessarily having, we don't want it to overbalance one way or the other. But I think, Richard, you had some really great stats where you were talking about investment into businesses that are women-owned. We know that it's a very small amount of external investment that gets put into women-owned businesses versus into men. That's the reason to try and equalise this so that everyone has a fair bite of the apple, or gets the cherry. But we, I think from our perspective in EMEA, we are very much following the lead of the US buying shape and style, because that is not how we're buying over here. Unless it's a global company, it's not actually potentially always concentrating on diversity. That's just from my own personal experience. So there might be a million companies that come forward and say, hey, listen, we want to buy diverse. But at the moment, I'm not seeing that. I'm not being approached as a diverse supplier unless it's through We Connect program.
That's so interesting how you actually do say that, Joe, and to know that it is so nice to be on this side talking to Joe, because Joe used to be a client of mine. And I remember us in New York touring around and looking at apartments and stuff. She's always just been that warm and loving and supportive. And I've always admired that about you. I will actually say, for the global perspective here, I think that I will have more mandate to actually take ownership and how to responsibly take care of those big projects when I know how to deal with something a lot smaller. When you're working with, of course, a big global team like a Furnished Quarters, a Synergy, and these top brands here in the States, I think having that leverage helps. When it is really a mandate of, I know how to do the projects, but I really don't have the behind the scenes system really set up without them, I think that that's where my local part came in strong, where I'm like, I have the connections, but I know locally to get these other businesses up and going, it's going to help. Because like Richard's stats here in the States, the top small businesses here are minority owned. And we're the top growing, fastest, most successful, but yet we don't have enough funding or have the education for the funding. So I think that that's where I kind of wanted to start my grassroots with my company, of how I feel like if I can open a door, I'm bringing everyone and their mom and their sister and anyone else that I can bring through that door with them. So just so we can also learn together. I think I learned a lot from you just in my corporate career. So understanding how we can network together and help share that development. I think also from that standpoint, it also will help me, I think, and grow my company.
Yeah, I just would like to say that these cross-pond discussions are extremely helpful. It goes, in line with, again, how we see the topic in EMEA. Actually, we found out first about, some level of certification or, what's actually a female business or female-owned business through a contract that we were about to sign with a US company. So really, this is the first time that the topic came around, and we were just curious. And this is the moment of realization. Is like, oh, actually, it can help you grow the business. And then I just wish there would be a bit more kind of conversation within EMEA or perhaps globally, and having these networking events. Just more information and kind of less fragmented certifications as well would be helpful to have.
Yeah, thanks, Carolina. I think that we should probably schedule another such discussion. To be honest with you, relatively soon. There have been some technical difficulties at the beginning of this broadcast. So that's two very good reasons to run again and just to keep the conversation going. I think really, you mentioned kindly the stats. Yourself and Joe, I think, mentioned the stats for the benefit of the people who are on the broadcast right now. Just to say, we ran some stats. In the UK, 1 in 3 entrepreneurs female. We're lagging behind the rest of the world, basically. So in 2017, 5.6% of UK run businesses were female, compared to 15% in Canada, 11% the USA, 9% Australia, and the Netherlands. I won't plunge back into all of those stats, but if anybody recalls any of the points that you made earlier in the broadcast, then please do repeat those as well. May I ask, please, so certification, how many bodies actually certify female or women-owned businesses? Michelle, may I start with you, please, because we were talking earlier about WBE and the WBEN. Could you please explain that? And then also other certification bodies.
Wait, I'm sorry. You cut out there first. Oh, there is. Depending on which country you're in, there may be more than one certification. We had to get 2 certifications here. WBE is pretty much a global certification, but for some reason, WBE Canada isn't associated with the other portion of WBE. So if you're in Canada, I really suggest that you other association, which is called WE Connect, and that connects you and WeBank, and I know all these words sound very odd, but once you become certified, it all makes sense. And you need to have both of those certifications. If anyone has any questions, please reach out to me. I'm happy to explain, why one, why the other, why both, and what the advantages are and the doors that are open, because not all corporations belong to the same association. So, check to see. But WBENC is the really big one, and there is global conferences once the pandemic is over, and I encourage everyone to participate in them. There are thousands and thousands of people that attend, and all major corporations are there. So it's really the place we all want to be. All the buyers are there under one roof. It's amazing. There's an article that Michigan State has just, that I just pulled up, and it really sums up why diverse suppliers are so important. Suppliers can be the cornerstone of any organization's success, helping companies to efficiently source services while maintaining profits growing customers, improving the economy, and innovation. And that forward thinking, many companies, and I'm going to use Google. Google is a really huge supporter of diverse supplier, because a lot of the ideas that have been implemented within Google's have come from their smaller companies within their supply chain. So when you're there, you'll hear all these stories. It's really amazing. So I encourage everyone to be part of that. You can come to some of these events too without being certified. So if you're in the process of being certified, come and check out some of these events, because you can go to them, and I think you'll see the advantages very quickly. And we do see the occasional man there too. It's not just women.
So thank you for adding that, Michelle. It makes me feel a little more in sync. Yeah,
Richard, I just want to add there about the male salespeople that I've been speaking to, especially in America, Michelle, if they're working for a women-owned business, are actually extremely proud to say I work for a women-owned business. And I had an amazing conversation with a gentleman, and he shall remain nameless. But he said to me, he said, I love it. He said, I walk in and I sit down and I do my sales pitch. And then he said, and I add in at the end, by the way, we are a women-owned business. And he said, and then he said, when they attach themselves to that, and I think, wow, what an amazing sales pitch I've got. It just adds in that little extra. And he's a gentleman, and he just says to me, I have no issue with working. I'm really enjoying it. It's a far more, he was saying it's a less biased space, and I'm working in a female-owned business. And I thought it was a really great example to use, that actually it becomes a sales opportunity for most. A lot of people have different USPs. A lot of people have got a lot of external funding, and they walk in and say, we're strong because we've got external funding. Well, this just means that we walk in and say, hey, listen, we're a women-owned business. We don't have a lot of external funding yet because we're a women-owned business, but that could come in the future. But the whole point is that everyone has different USPs. Everyone's got differentiators. It might be that you're huge and amazing and have been going for 20 years, or you might be small, entrepreneurial, and women-owned or minority-owned business. So it's always an opportunity for you to get in and use as part of your sales process. But every guy that I've spoken to that's working in a women-owned business has only told me it's created opportunities for them. So they're very happy to be sitting there as well. So from my perspective, that's fantastic. And like we say, we only want equity and equality. No, we don't want the balance to go too far. We need it to stay nice and level.
I agree with you, Joe. I think that is one of the biggest and nicest things that puts a smile on my face every day, is when I can talk to these men and they get excited about wanting to work with a woman-owned business. I love that. I support that. I'm for that, and keep supporting that. Because I will say that, especially in this particular climate right now, in our society, where we're talking about how people are fighting for, their diversity and the respect that we deserve. It's kind of nice that I get to see in this stage in my career, in this point in my life, that the color of my skin and my female identity is actually what sets me apart, but makes me actually welcomed. That's not something I necessarily would have thought about 10, 15, 20 years when I started my career. To know that now, that I can use that as a happy advantage, it's respectable. But but you come with the work. You do the work and you show them that you belong in the room, and why our services are needed, and why it's really important to have our aspect on the line when it comes to some of these services that we're providing. I mean, we're providing a roof over someone's head. It is lodging. So it's one of the things that you're meant to do in our business. So why would you not do it with a woman? We know how to design and do those things better than y'all do. Sorry, Richard. So it makes sense. But we have the talent. I think it's been there all along. So for us to see it now, I think in our industry, in this era of change, it is Michelle, I'm with you, girl. It's time. I feel like we really arrived at a peak of really knowing what we're worth. We have so many value contracts, and we talk about the value of using us in a business. But I think overall as a company, we're showing our value and our worth every single day. So I think that is really a testament to where we want to be and those tables we want to sit at. So I think it's definitely that changing curve. I love that the certifications are there for us, but I also know the connections and how important that is to do that business development and how important that is to also get into those rooms. So all around, I think that will definitely work for us.
Richard, if I can add to that, it is, aside from all the tax implications and the legalities and the great things from a business perspective, it is our younger generations, and I am a mentor to a few, young 20s, fresh out of college, wanting to know what to do with their careers. It means everything when barriers are broken. It opens doors. I put something on LinkedIn yesterday about a woman who got on the football field. It doesn't matter if she kicked great. It doesn't matter. What matters is someone had a simple idea that created an opportunity that broke a barrier in some young lady's mind that she can do anything she wants to do, right? And I think that's where I love this topic, and I'm very passionate about the topic, because we are the leaders that will break those barriers for the younger generation. And I think that's super exciting.
Hi, guys. Sorry, I just wanted to add in on that. I also, I think within our industry in corporate housing, we have so many women already that we can look up to and kind of ask questions and have them as mentors to bring the next generation up to the level that have, they have been the ones that were the leaders to start this, including Michelle, who, I've learned so much from her, went with my time with her and her starting her own business by herself, and same with a lot of other people in this industry. So it's important to recognize the people, before us and using them as, sounding boards for helping us and making women grow larger within this industry.
I completely agree. I'm just going to come in there if you don't mind. As a veteran of the industry, which is what they put in my press release when I put it out, they added the word veteran, which I found horrific and amazing at the same time, because I still see myself as a 14-year-old youth. So it's hard to realise you're a veteran at some stage. But I've always believed that women are equal to men, and sometimes I forget that I am a woman, and I think that's that's probably something that's allowed me to get to where I am, Michelle. And probably you've had the same kind of experience where you have the same fight, the same courage, the same determination to actually get over hurdles. And actually, so 2 years ago, I fell off my pedestal completely. And to get the courage to get back up again and put your face out there and face communities when you've gone through some adversity is actually something that's made me strong enough to start my own business. If I had never been tripped up, I would never have got back up, and I wouldn't have started my own business. So I think as we all move forward now through into this new world, because let's be really, really honest, there used to be a show in the UK that I don't even know if it ever travelled to the US, called Tomorrow's World. And it was about ridiculous things that you thought of in the future that you watched on the TV screen and thought that's never going to happen. And I tell you what, seriously, I think it's all happened. But in tomorrow's world, so not today, we're all sort of in this pause environment. There's going to be a tomorrow's world. And as we come into tomorrow's world, after we've gone past this pandemic curve, which we're really hoping we're going to get past really quickly now, no one wants to stay in this for any longer than what we need to, there's going to be a chance for everyone to evolve again. And there's a chance for reset buttons to be pressed. And there's also a chance for readjustment. And that readjustment is actually what I feel was happening with women-owned and minority businesses, just allowing that little bubble to come to the top. It's like there's a really busy space and this bubble's just come up and gone, hey, there's women-owned businesses out there and maybe we should allow them to come in. But I also feel just as passionate about diverse businesses that are, maybe not women-owned. I think it's the whole diversity thing that's important. But if we think about and always have priorities as being community, as being collaboration, as being commerce, and then having actionable insights. And Michelle, I think you mentioned that there's been a lot of chat about being diverse, and a lot of chat about diversity in the wider term, but actually performing those as actionable insights or actionable efforts even is going to be more important. And I think as we come out, as we get into tomorrow's world, there'll be just that tiny space for us to get our shoulders up and put them straight at the table and say, hey, we're here as well. And I think that's the opportunity, really. We don't want anything more than a place at the table. And that's that's all I want. If I can get to the table, I can fight like anyone, doesn't matter who you are. I will fight for my space at that table, but I need to be able to get to the table first. And I think that's the most important thing that we've said as a company, is that just give us the chance to get to that table. But the next year is really important. And I do think as we come out and we go into tomorrow's world, it's going to be interesting. But I do think there's been a reset button. And after we finish pressing pause and we press play, there'll just be a little bit more space for the diverse suppliers to take their places as well.
I think talking about tomorrow's world, I think it's also important to mention that the pandemic really changed a lot of things and is enabling a more flexible working environment, by working from home, for example, more flexibility, virtual conferences, so on and so forth. So it can also create a slightly better environment for female leaders to strive, particularly if you have, for example, a young family to take care of.
Yeah.
I agree. I think I love what Barbara is doing with the younger generation, these newer entrepreneurs, because, of course, I did not grow up around entrepreneurs, so this is all like new playing field, but I can totally understand what Joe just said about that falling down and getting back up. I always tell people I'm a product of my failures, not my successes. So you know exactly what I'm made of when you see me come back up, because just know if I fall, I'm getting right back up. So that's a testament, but also watching Joe and Michelle and these veterans really strive to look at, us, other women getting into their realm and wanting to help and be that support guide. I think in the beginning of my career, it really was an environment where they wanted us to compete against each other. And that's not the environment I'm getting anymore. We are striving to work together and to support each other. And I think that that's what also still makes me really happy every day to wake up and do what I do. Because there are women like this who actually want to help support us and push us and, give us the information and make sure that we stand accountable for what we say we're going to do. So I like how we hold each other up in our own value statutes. But coming from, the younger generation to the generation that we're striving to be like, it's exciting to see exactly what we're doing just because we're working together. So that's an important aspect of it, I think, as well.
That's great. Thank you, everyone. Joe, mentioning tomorrow's world made me feel young for a while, because after tomorrow's world was always top of the pops, so it was absolutely always. Used to watch it every week. But we'll play a short video now, sponsorship video, and then we'll come back and continue. judging by people's faces. There we go. Right. I'm told off on a regular basis for that I mention these videos. It is very, very disconcerting, though, and I don't know if they're finished or not. I'm just staring at the screen. So no, that's fantastic. So I cut into conversations in a way with that video, and I don't know whether anybody would like to pick up on anything that we were discussing. I'm noticing the time. We've got about 10 minutes in terms of the 2 to 3 slot. Everyone's always, welcome to stay beyond then if you don't have any, if you have the time. But one thing that I was wondering about was, and I think we touched on it just before the broadcast, which is whether there is ever a reluctance to kind of say, to present your business as a women-owned business in any respect. Do you think there is a reluctance to join in that group?
No, not at all. We use it as a sales tool, and it opens doors.
Right. Okay.
I'm telling you, a women-owned business, there's no one that works harder.
Right.
In EMEA, maybe Richard, it is where we need to catch up and feel as strong and confident and in women-owned business space as such, because it is not something it would be something that we would maybe add in. But I find it very difficult, and I hope you find this funny and not horrific. But whenever I start to tell somebody that I'm a women-owned business, they look at me and say, well, of course you are. You're a woman and you're representing CAP. So it's kind of like I think, I don't know when it's appropriate. I'm not somebody who knows how to open the door and start a conversation about that diversity that we have. And I don't always know how important it is to the companies, which is the reason why I joined Women's Enterprise We Connect. Was because I did not know how to do it. I think I've probably got more testosterone than most men that I know. So therefore, from my perspective, I've never needed an additional sales pitch to put on the table. But being so small as we are, we were a startup. We're probably not a startup now because we're in our second full year as such under the brand of CAP. So it's quite an interesting environment, but it's not as easy in EMEA, and I'm sure Caroline will agree with me. It's not as easier to put the card even on the table, because people kind of say, well, of course you're a female, and you told me that you own the business. So therefore, it's a little bit more challenging. But We Connect, actually, what it does do is it helps you. For any EMEA businesses that aren't part of We Connect, what it does is it helps you to connect to the people that do care about the fact that you're a diverse supplier. So I think, it's very, very different. I'm loving the US approach and understanding and learning how to approach it from a different direction, even with those massive US-based companies, because that's the opportunity for us, is to look after international. But it's an interesting one, Richard. It's not easy, even if you are more manly than what you are female, which is what I consider myself probably to be.
Well, according to Emma, you're not a veteran, but a superstar. So there you go. It's on the screen at the moment. Well said. So I'm just running through some of the comments and questions. Here. So Mike, quoting John Lennon. Looking forward to the day when we're looking forward to the day when these kind of discussions are behind us. Again, well said, Mike. I'm wondering.
We talked about that recently, Richard, in one of the wine rooms a couple of weeks ago, about how we one day as women would like for that to not be kind of like the thing where it's like women owned or the first woman, or, having that to be put in front of our names, and to just let our work speak for itself and it have that priority over superseding, making sure it's like, well, we're woman owned, or like, we don't need that badge of honor. Getting to that point where you see the badge and it's of stature, but it's not a conversation piece. I can't wait for that day. Because we are still so many first, I think, and how I'm structuring my business, I'm the first at doing certain things. I don't put it at the forefront, but it is nice to know that I can pat myself on the back and give my credits where credits are due. But to know that there will come a time where we won't have to talk about it and it's just customary. I cannot wait for that moment, because I think in our industry, and some people I still hear say, you know, it's a boys' club. And so to know that I can now say, I don't think so much, not anymore. We're stepping in line where we need to be. So there will come a time where I think that that's not actually necessary. It'll just be what we know.
I think that it also comes to the size of the companies, right? So as a small startup, you have very limited resources usually. And then ultimately, it needs to be all about the skill set, you know, whether it's man or female employee. So I think that I would like to say perhaps or think that within the startup community, which is also driven by, you know, millionaires, younger generations, we don't tend to, you know, make such differences. But if you look at the larger structures, I think the issue is quite often there. So therefore, you need to really have these positive, I would say, policies that needs to be carefully implemented in order to make the change happen within these structures.
Yeah, exactly.
There's one thing. There's one thing to consider, that unless you're within the circle, let's say, of women-owned business, supplier diversity, there is something very powerful and very strong that happens. And that is when you are in this circle, we'll call it, I've never seen a group trying to help each other in my life like this group, total strangers. You'll meet someone in the morning, perhaps at an event, and later on that afternoon, you'll get a phone call from them going, you know what, I had your card, I gave it to them, they need you. I've never seen a group trying to help everyone succeed in my life like this group. It's empowering, it's powerful. I can give you an example. We were registered on a certain site for business, and you know, we hadn't really had anything from them in this portal in a long time. And I had a company reach out to us, one I had never contacted. I didn't even know they existed. And they were seeking us because in order for them to get a contract, they had to have supplier diversification within their supply chain. They had a need for corporate housing. It was outside of our core area, but we were able to, of course, put it all together for them. They won the government contract, and of course, we won in the meantime. So I'm telling you, it's only a win-win, and it is so powerful.
Absolutely, it is very much that win-win, isn't it? Your notes earlier, Michelle, highlighted that to me, that the companies need the diversified companies, certified diversified companies, in order that they meet their quotas and for government purposes, and also presumably then those tax advantages that Barbara mentioned and you did as well, Michelle. So Sarah's question there is,
together to do that.
Say that again, Michelle, please.
I said we can network together to do that, because some may not be qualified to become, you know, a diversified supplier. It's not just women-owned business. Supplier diversification has many different categories, but right now we were talking more about women-owned business, of course. But we can network together globally so that we can do that, so that we do have diversified suppliers within our chains. People are looking for us as well. So we kind of have to turn on the way we look at things a little bit differently. It's that inclusion, Joe, that you had mentioned so much earlier. We need to include other businesses. We need to reach out. You need to seek other businesses, not just sit in that square box we're so used to sitting in. You need to broaden everything, and that's what this is all about.
Yeah,
Michelle, that's a great point, because I think that Joe has been doing that, and she's done it since I've literally known her for 7-8 years now. Lord, it's been that long. But that's one of the things I can say about her. When I first met her, when I would go back and forth to the UK. She was always there and willing to be that listening ear in order to understand certain things, how to, host certain projects. And she knows, along with her team, how I constantly am always, when I wake up, I'm checking, I'm always in tune of what's going on. So it was always really important to have those conversations. I think that a lot of times we're kind of timid to have those conversations because we don't know the reproach of what we would get, from certain rejections that we've had in our past. But I think, Michelle and Joke have been such a great testament to how, if you, stand up and voice your opinions, how successful that can be with doing those connections. I think that it starts there. You have to, if you're going to be afraid, do it afraid. If you got the fear, do it with fear. Just do it. Don't be afraid to speak up and have those conversations with people, especially now during COVID. There are so many conversations I've had with people that I never thought that I would, have an opportunity one-on-one through LinkedIn and just connecting with them directly. So I think now is the time to really speak up and have access to the people that you need to get in the rooms with.
I just wanted to add in there, for me personally, starting the business that I did, it was truly one of the scariest things ever. Just because I too, I have a son, I'm a single mom. And so to take a risk like that, for me was something where it's like, I'm either going to do it or not do it. And I figured in the end, if you don't take a chance or take those chances and opportunities in life, then you're just going to kind of float by, and you'll never really know as a woman or as a diversified supplier, what you're capable of and what is possible. And just going back to adding to this, I know, I am part of the younger generation of entrepreneurs on here. But a lot of the women who I've met in this industry, those are the people that inspired me to be able to take that leap of faith. And if you have, strong women or strong group around you, it kind of gives you more confidence than you would being able to do it just on your own, and having people to be able to talk to within the industry and guide you, and also seeing them having done it and being successful at it. It gives you the push for other women who maybe have an idea or want to do something, but they've never really been on their own trying to do it. So just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, thanks, Katerina. I mean, do trade magazines or business magazines give enough publicity? Do people think to this topic?
Do you know, Richard, if I come in there, I've got to be really, really honest. I think that we as CAP have had an incredible amount of coverage over the last 2 years, an incredible amount. I'm kind of hoping it's because that we're a team of professionals and not just because we're women owned, if I'm really, really honest. But we've been supported by all of the major writers and journalists, and actually been put into print quite regularly, which is absolutely fantastic. And they do ask opinion, which I think has been really incredible. There is, however, a great number that haven't actually, and I've sent them press releases and I've said, we're a women-owned business, and they still haven't picked it up, and they've kind of put it to the bottom of their pile, or where maybe they just don't, maybe they're not interested in the messages we're saying. But I could literally draw a line of people that have 100% supported or people that haven't supported. And that's actually quite interesting for me to actually look at the industry and go, my God, there's a line where there's a support and there's a line where there's no support. So I think getting into the middle ground is where we want to be. We want to be in that middle, nice balanced space of if you've got the right message, you get into it. I don't particularly want to always be quoted because we're women owned. I do want to be quoted because what we're saying makes absolute sense. But to your point, there's a lot of people that are not, or they're saying that they support women-owned businesses, but actually the reality, the deeds part of it isn't. It's very easy to say a lot of things about something but not do anything. And I think, and that's why I'm very passionate about actionable efforts or insights or deeds, not words. And I've got this on I didn't even realise this was an Emily Pankhurst thing. I don't even think I'm showing it to you correctly. But my team will know that on my desk I have decent words, because I can say a lot in a day. I promise you, a huge amount. but it's whether I do what I say is the most important part of my day. So actually completing activities with people is more important. So Nina, to your point, I feel really passionate about giving time to young people and people with great ideas, because my older brain is not as fresh and bright and amazing as yours. You might think you're taking some of my veteran brain, but I'm actually learning more from all of you guys with your amazing, incredible ideas. So for me, the meaning of diversity and inclusion is about those behavioural norms that make people feel welcome and ready to share information with me. And I really love the warmth and the empathy and the understanding that we get when we do share. So, that's honestly, there's a lot to do, Richard. And I think you're ahead of the curve. I've not seen any of the other major associations pick up female leaders and throw us onto the stage like you have. So thank you. That's meant a lot to us as female leaders. And you're ahead of the curve. You're ahead of the pandemic curve. Thank you.
Well, very kind. I mean, you mentioned their associations.
Joe, you have to stop saying that you're a veteran. We've already discovered that people are not going to let you get away with that. They've already called you a superstar, and you can't really be called a veteran if you still look 25. Just saying. I will say that Joe has some really good points about, I think, just action. It is one thing for us to have these conversations, which are absolutely great, and having the panel. And Richard, yes, you have done a fantastic job with, really putting this out there to actually have the conversation. But let's not just leave with that. I think it's really important that we still connect, that we still take action pieces and work our way and figure out how to actually do the work. It's really important that, I can definitely be proud to say, I'm a minority woman-owned business. Yes, that's fantastic. But what does my work look like? I want to know that it actually shows each and every day, from the clients that I have to the business partners that I associate myself with, how I'm interacting. I think that is the source of being proud about what I'm doing. I want every day to at least have the credibility of how proud it looks. It's not pretty, because everything and every day is not pretty. It can get really ugly, but that ugly can turn into something really beautiful if you keep going and do the work. So I think that's a testament to it as well. Because you still have Sarah Buck's comment down. Yes, we should start. We don't have to wait till Monday. We can start tomorrow and put something together where we can all, support and help and sit at the table. So I love taking the action plans and action steps and hearing about other people's ideas, because I think also as a small business, we don't hear enough. So because we don't have as many people, around us. So I think it's also really important to have a tribe of people where we can get different point of views and aspects and opinions, which is why also I miss traveling so much. So I think that also has a lot to do with how we actually conform with the action plans as well.
Yeah, that's good, Nina, because I did leave Sarah's comment on intentionally, actually, because like you say, action is very important. And by Monday, we promise something will happen, Sarah. But no, it's to actually have that the action is so important. Joe, you mentioned about associations there, and I'm throwing it in rather than with SAFA and your involvement there with getting associations together and like level playing fields and what have you. I don't know whether that's something that should be added to the discussion there, really, with women-owned businesses and certification, because it's a universal kind of issue, isn't it? It's not just females who are saying that it's important. So I think all associations should be considering it in the same way that CHPA, I believe, have been doing with a specific forum that they have. No doubt, it's I've probably started this because, like Emily Pankhurst, I'm a Mancunian, so maybe it's in the air in Manchester or something. But this is very, very important. We will be as well. We've mentioned with Nina at the Saba Wine Time about minority diversified companies as well, and we will be running a Blue Room on that. I'm mindful of the time, and I hope I'm not interrupted anyone's flow of thought there, but if I have, then jump in. But I'm mindful of the time because we're 10 past, and I don't know whether to say that if any of the panel need to go, then please at this stage just give us a wave and we'll understand, and then you disappear from the screen as such. But otherwise, at this stage, should we go around with a kind of a sort of a summary regarding perhaps what you think the action plan should be? I don't know. It's up to you how you'd like to summarize. But I think we're looking at the same screen as we're all looking at the same screen, unlike at Saba. So if we were to go Joe, Carolina, Katerina, Nina, Michelle, and Barbara with the summaries, would that be okay? And then we can discuss further issues if you would like. But I don't want to deny anyone the opportunity to sum up what they think. Joe, would you like to kick off, please?
Absolutely. And actually, I just like to balance off because I'm all for female power and everything. And I'm also into balance. I'm a Libran, and I'm I think I'm quite a balanced. I hope I'm a balanced person. But I think my personal goal has always been that every person has the right to get to the table. And no matter their sex, no matter their ethnicity or their background or whatever kind of person you are, I want you to be able to get to the table. But for me, it's when you get to the table, what you do then that is extremely important as well. So it's up to you once you're at the table to make that difference and to actually take your place. And I think that's my personal goal, is that we keep an amazing equity and equality mindset, as well as powering through to get the amazing females. So there is 50% of new businesses are women and 50% men. That's my goal. Would be amazing to have something like that, and then everything in between is covered. But yeah, absolutely, personal goal is to try and make sure that everyone has the right to get to the table and the opportunity to get to the table.
Thank you, Joe. Carolina, over to you, please.
Yeah, I would just like to highlight that we're, I guess, all catering to a global consumer market, or even global companies, multinational companies. And so if already the consumer is so diverse and international, then it should be definitely reflected into our teams, because this is the only way that the product is actually going to be made for the right audience. And definitely, female leadership, especially if you're, for example, catering to female assignees when they're relocating with their families, this is really the only way that you will be able to deliver the right product that's tailor-made for them.
Fantastic. Thanks, Carolina. Katerina, over to you, please. By the way, I do appreciate that as we go through this, the gallery as such, it's going to be increasingly difficult because people have said everything. But over to you, Katerina.
I just want to say, I think we as women are capable of so much, and we're able to juggle so many different things, including family, kids, job. And we deserve a seat at the table, and we deserve to be part of any sort of discussion within the industry. And I think that our voices not only need to be heard, but our opinions are valued. And I think utilizing each other and having discussions like this with other like-minded women, it just empowers us more and helps us grow and become stronger, not only just within this industry, but as women in business in general.
Thank you. Nina, if I may.
Yes. I will say my motto has always been move forward by faith, not backwards by fear. I think that this is an era of that time. We are an assortment of such vast array of women who know how to do things above and beyond, just because it's required. So I think not only is it important having a seat at the table, build your own table. If you're not finding what you need at the table you thought you needed to sit at, build your own. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with actually pursuing places and things and opportunities that you never in your wildest dreams thought of. Me doing that allowed me to be here and 2 years into my company and having a conversation with some really incredible women. So I appreciate this, and I think the opportunity is there. I am an open door, and my job is to serve. I love to serve. I love to give and provide because I know it'll come back to me tenfold. So any opportunity to use me up, please do. I'm here.
Thanks, Nina. Michelle, over to you, please.
Nina, I love what you said. You know, women, I shouldn't say women helping women. I find women help everybody. It's just our nurturing. I don't know what it is, but we love to help. The world is changing on all kinds of levels right now. So supplier diversity, for those who haven't got the memo, since everything else is changing this year, it's actually the perfect time to introduce it to those who haven't got the idea yet, because there is so much change. Remember, you're either moving forwards or backwards, pick one. So this year has been hopefully not a backwards for people. It's been a change, but this is our opportunity to move forward, empowering people, helping each other, looking at new avenues we've never even thought of before. And again, getting out of that darn box. That's what this is all about. It's getting everybody to the table. It's not stepping on them, it's helping them up. That's what this is all about. It's empowering each other to move forward.
Thanks. Thank you, Michelle. Barbara, over to you.
How in the heck am I going to go after all that?
I know it's not easy.
Oh my God. This is my final. Richard, I'm so thankful for you for putting all this together, because doing business and having relationships that are successful is fun. I mean, that's the celebration that we all get, is by me calling Joe saying, hey, did you hear this is going on here? We can partner. Let's grab Nina, Michelle, and let's do business together. And I mean, that is where, like, I get goosebumps in helping people, just really do good business together. And at the end of the day, I think it's that simple. I do. I mean, it's not simple, but it is that simple, is that we're going to do business together, respect one another, and find the wins in life.
Fabulous. No, that's
as good
amazing.
as I've got.
And thank you for. I don't know how you found something different. It was a hard on that. So brilliant summary. So I would like to say now thank you to the live viewers. Thank you to viewers who watch the broadcast, and of course thank you to another amazing panel. I would like to say that I've been rather inspired myself, so I'm sure there are plenty of fellas out there as well that are inspired by this conversation. So thank you very much indeed. I will play the outro video very shortly, unless somebody has anything that they would like to say. Still like to say. Otherwise, we'll play the outro video, during which time, by all means, leave the stage as such, because I've said in the past, video finishes and everyone's just looking there startled, as if like, what's going on next? But does anybody any other thoughts? I would hate to leave the stage as such without exploring. Is everybody?
Can I just say one thing? Shout out to all of the Catherines, the single moms, killing it and rocking it in this business right now during this COVID situation. I bow down to you guys. I don't know how y'all are doing it and still look fantastic, but I commend every single one of you, because I know that this is not easy. So thank you for everything that y'all do right now.
Lovely message. Thanks, Nina. Okay, so we'll move to the outro video. I'd like to thank you once more, and we'll touch base very shortly, I'm sure. Thank you.
And thank you, Richard. Thank you.